Hey, this is Brady with Sonido Software. If you own or manage an audio production studio, you probably know how challenging it can be to try and build that business systems workflow. A lot of studios will cobble together a dozen or more different applications trying to build a system only to find that now they're running systems rather than running their own studio. With Sonido Software, we bring to you a studio management system that has an end-to-end approach. It has all of the different tools and benefits that you're looking for within a single platform. Everything from the sales side of managing leads and sending follow-up reminders to managing your projects day by day, your scheduling for the studio, all of the billing aspects, sending out invoices or collecting deposits from clients, sharing audio files with clients for review, delivering files to your clients, and so much more. Within Sonido, you have a single platform that brings many of these benefits together, so you spend less time trying to manage systems and more time building your business. We are going to talk today about using Sonido Software as your studio management platform. Essentially, we're going to follow the life cycle of a project from start to finish, starting with the sales side and moving all the way to the point where you deliver that project file to your clients, wrap up the project, collect final payment, and everything in between. Okay, so today, let's focus on leads. At the very front of this life cycle, we have the sales process. Okay, now this may look a little bit different for every studio, but generally, you have individuals that are inquiring about possible projects within your studio. That may be through maybe through your website, or it could be somebody giving you a call through your phone number at your studio. Maybe you get a direct email from a client, or they find you on social. There's a lot of different ways that they may be finding you through your marketing efforts, but within Sonido Software, you have the ability to track each one of those individuals as what we call a lead record to manage that process flow, to ensure that they don't fall through the cracks, and you continue that line of communication all the way to the point where you have sold them on starting a project with your studio. So here within Sonido, we can see the lead management page. From this page, we see every one of these lead records that have come into our studio. Okay, we can see all of their information, and including like their first name, their last name, who is the client, what is the project type that we're working? Is it music? Is it podcast, voiceover? What is it that we're doing? We can track the genre that they're working within. Is it a pop group? Rock, a cappella, what is it? As well as the lead stage. As they're working through what we call a sales pipeline, where are they in that process from being a brand new lead to the point where we've converted them to a new project and we're starting that project with them and capturing payment and everything in between. All right. And there's a number of filters and search options to really refine these lists so you can communicate with these individuals and help them progress forward. We're going to go ahead and assume that somebody has filled out a form on our website and that lead has come into our system. So let's take for instance, a sample website. Now, this is actually something that you can use within Sonido to build on your own. You can build custom web forms that you can embed right into your website. And this is all about lead generation. Once you embed a form from Sonido onto your website, when somebody comes in and fills this out, they will be created as a new lead within your Sonido account. And you can refine these fields, you can rename them, you can move the arrangement of the fields around to best fit your website. You can style it however you like. There's a lot of flexibility within Sonido in how you can manage these fields. Let's go ahead and say we had somebody named Corey Johansson. Corey Johansson came to our website, they filled out their information, and they put in, at least in my example here, they have their name, they have their email, their phone number. Maybe we've got another field to capture what their artist's name is or their band name. In this case, let's just call it Corey Johansson. Same name, it's a single artist. Music genre, we're capturing that. This may be a pop singer. And how have you heard about us? Maybe they found us on Instagram, and that's what prompted them to reach out. We've also got a field here that says, tell us about your project. And so maybe Corey says, hey, I'm looking to record 3 songs. I have all the instrumentation, backing tracks, looking to track vocals at a great studio, right? Whatever details they want to add, they'll go ahead and submit that. And on your end, as soon as they submit that, not only are you notified by email that you've got a new web form submission that comes right into your email with all of Corey's information, but also right here in Sonido, if we refresh our screen, you'll see that we have a new little indicator next to your leads here that shows we have 2 new leads, and one of those is Corey Johansson. Notice here, all the information that was populated from that web form is now populating right here as a new record. I did not have to manually input all of this information into Sonido. It drops right in as a new lead. We've got Corey's name, email, phone number. We've got his artist name. We've got a music project, referral source, target, start, and completion dates, and other details here as well. So all of that has come right into Sonido. Now, in other cases, if we go back a screen here, you do have the ability to create a new lead yourself. So if there is a situation where somebody calls the studio or they email you and you need to start collecting their information to fill out a lead, you can do so. Click on Create New Lead and you can create that on the fly from here, whether it's a repeat client or a new client. Capture their information. It's in the system. You have less of a chance of letting those leads fall through the cracks and losing out on revenue opportunities. Now, once we've opened up Corey's lead record, you'll notice, first of all, up on top, we've got a little pipeline. This is customizable within Sonido. You can create whatever stops that you would like within the Sonido lead stage pipeline. Okay, in our case, it's a brand new lead. It shows up as new. Let's say we start communicating with Corey. We want to move that to in communication. Well, we can do that and move that forward as the next stage in the view. Now, down below, we've got some additional details, the primary contact, the artist or group information about a future project, and so forth. So we can collect all of those details, but a lot of times what we're doing as we're communicating with these leads, these individuals, is dealing with communications and follow-up reminders. So within Sonido, we have a notes field. Here in the notes, we can populate any details necessary about our conversations, about the record, our impressions, things like, I spoke with Corey today and he's looking for, a project in the studio. This is what he wants. This is what he doesn't want. Had a bad experience at this other place and we don't want to repeat that. Don't forget to follow up with him about some references, other clients we've worked with. Whatever it is, you can populate those kind of notes and save those. And all of those notes are saved right here on the lead record. So you've got a history of those communications over time. You've got a history of what's been said and done. And if you ever need to reference that when you're doing follow-ups with Corey, reference your notes so that when you follow up with Corey, you look and feel very professional. You don't have to say, hey, Corey, I forgot what we were talking about. What was the next steps? What did we decide? You've got it all documented and you're a very professional studio at that point. Now, we also have a to-dos tab. To-dos are like tasks or a checklist that you can create. So here on this record, I can come in and create a new to-do, and I'm going to call this Follow Up with Corey. I can also assign this to any of my team members within Sonido. I can assign it to myself, or I can delegate it to someone else on my team, or I can add more than one, right? And that assigns this task to multiple people, and whoever marks as complete, it's completed for everyone. We set up a due date and time. So maybe I want to follow up with him on Saturday at 2:00 p.m. I'm going to set a reminder at that time so that within Sonido, it's automatically prompting me saying, hey, you've got this to do, it's due. Make sure you get on it, right? So I'm being reminded. I've got a system that's holding me accountable for my next steps. You can add additional details as well. Ask about microphone preferences or, whatever. We'll go ahead and save that. And that holds that here in a list. So I have a list of all of my to-dos with follow-up reminders all in one place. I can see which ones are complete, which ones are incomplete. Once I've completed this, I can come over and mark it as complete and keep track of those details. And that's a big part of the lead management is the communications, setting follow-ups, tracking, where are they at? After we continue communicating, maybe we send them a quote and we want to track that as well so we can see that in our pipeline. At the end of the day, with lead records, we're either going to convert them to a new project, they're ready to move forward, or we have to mark them as closed lost, right? They're just not going to move forward for whatever reason. Here within Sonido, you can track that. If we need to mark a lead as closed lost, we can customize a list of reasons for being closed lost, and then we can track that and run reports later to see, what are the reasons why my leads are closed lost? Why are they not moving forward? What are the trends and the patterns that I see, and how can I overcome those within my studio to win more business. So we help you with all of that. Now, before we move forward with Corey, let's talk about the typical natural next step here for most studios, right? We're communicating with Corey, and I don't know about you, but in my experience running a studio, one of the first questions that they ask is, I want to do this project. What is it going to cost, right? We need to know those details. Now, in this particular case, for Corey, we want to send him a quote. We've been communicating about a project. We know exactly, what he's working through and how many songs, all of those details that he had shared with us before. He wants to do 3 songs. So why don't we create a quote that we can send to Corey so he can see the financial expectation of a project, and now we can get his feedback. Yes or no? Are you ready to move forward or not? So here in Sonido, we're going to come over here to the financial section and click on View Quotes. Now from this view, we see all of our quotes that we've created in the past. We can see the status of those. Some have been invoiced. Looks like this one was accepted. This was rejected. So we can see what's going on with every one of these quotes that we've been sending out. Let's go ahead and create a new quote for Corey. So here, when I create a new quote, you'll notice here that it has some branding for your studio. It'll have your logo and information. You can set up quote numbers, quote dates, all of that. We're going to go ahead and send this to Corey, right? So if we search here, there's Corey Johansson. We want to use him as the bill to address. And I'm going to go ahead and add an email address so we can track this and see what it looks like on our end as well. There's also an association field. What this allows you to do is to link this quote with a record that exists within your Sonido account for reporting and tracking purposes. In this case, let's go ahead and link this with a lead record. And now we need to specify which is it. Well, in this case, it's Corey. There he is. We're going to link that to his lead record, and we'll see that in the reports a little bit later and understand why. Once I've done all of that, I can come in and start to build out my quote. And in this particular case, maybe we have recording for 3 songs, and we're giving them about 12 hours of time. And we've got our studio price, so we can set that up however we would like. Now, right now, my account's showing US dollars. You can go into the settings and change it to your local currency, wherever you may be. Let's go ahead and add some other information as well. Maybe we're doing some editing and mixing for those 3 songs as well. And we have 3 songs, and the total that we charge is $400 per song. So you can see here how it starts to sum the subtotal and the total value based on the line items that you're creating. And you have some other flexible options that I'll just touch on briefly. If you are required to charge sales tax for your services in your area, you can add tax on. If you want to provide discounts to your client, you can do that as well. Maybe we talk to Corey and say, hey, we want to win your business. And if you let us know before the end of this week, you approve this quote so we can get started on a project, we'll give you 10% off your total project. Right there it is. Bring in that discount. The total is going to reflect that. Now down below, you can have the system populate your terms and conditions, and then also a note. We can say, hey, Corey, looking forward to working with you on your project, and whatever else we want to add. Now, once we've got this how we want it, we're ready to send this quote out to Corey. You can do that using Sonido. You can either share a link through, like if you want to send out a text message with a link or email it, or you can use Sonido simply to save and send to the email address that's listed right here as the bill to or the copied address. So we can see here once that's sent out, right here we've got this recipient, Corey, and the status of his quote is that it's been sent. No action has been taken quite yet, and along with the final amount. So let's take a look next at what happens. What does Corey see once we send this out? When we come back into our email, we'll notice here that there's an email that, we're pretending to be Corey here. He received an email from our studio. It looks like it came from our studio name. It shows that there's a quote. When he opens it up, he's met with the body of the email. Now, all of this in this white space is customizable. You can build out whatever communication you want to show up there as a template. But down below, we've got this attachment. When Corey opens this attachment, he sees all the information that we just populated as a part of this quote. But really what this is, like we said before, this is a financial expectation for the project. With a quote, we're not collecting any money yet. We just want to know if Corey gives us the thumbs up or thumbs down. Does he say yes or no? And up here at the top of the quote, there's 2 options: to either accept the quote or reject the quote. Whatever action Corey takes, as a studio, we receive the notification. We are notified immediately of that action. If he does reject the quote, then this quote is, or it's going to take Corey to another page where he can type out what is the reason, why are you rejecting this quote? That way, as a studio, we get that feedback either way. Now, in our case here, let's say that Corey's the ideal client and he just accepts that quote. So he hits accept, and it confirms that he's accepted that, and he's moving on with his day. Now, as a studio, let's come back to our email for a moment. As a studio, we get an automated notification showing that it's been accepted. So we don't have to sit back and twiddle our thumbs and wonder and wait if anything's happened. You immediately get notified that your quote's been accepted. And not only that, but if we come back up to our quotes view and refresh our screen, notice this first quote in the list for Corey, the status has automatically changed to accepted. So visually, we have that confirmation as well that he's ready to go, ready to take the next steps. We can now book studio time. We can take a deposit. We can do anything that we need to do next. All right, so before I get too far, let's talk about his lead record again. We've been working with Corey as a lead, and at this point, we've been having conversations. Maybe we've had a couple follow-ups with reminders. We sent out the quote. He has approved that quote, so we are ready to move forward with this project. Down below, I can click on the Convert button, and what that's going to do is it's going to convert Corey's project, his lead record, with all of that information that we've collected right into a new project record. So I can start to manage this project with Corey from start to finish. All right, so it saves you from having to type all the same information out again. In this case, let's go ahead and give a project name. Corey Johansson, let's just call this a 3-song EP, and he's pop, so we'll go ahead and hit OK. And you'll notice here that now it's showing the new project record for Corey Johansson. And here's all the information, including all the notes that we had populated when we were working with Corey as a lead, because a lot of those conversations and notes were relevant to this project itself. So we have all of that information as a project now. Now, before we get into the project, let's continue down this life cycle, right? What typically happens next? Well, in our case, Corey approved the quote. We want to capture a deposit so that we can, take the next steps with him. So let's go ahead and look at our invoices. If I click on View Invoices, this is where I can create an invoice where I can send this out to Corey and start to collect payment now, such as a deposit payment up front. You'll notice here that we have a list, kind of like we saw with quotes, a list of all of our invoices within Sonido. And similarly, they all have their own status. Some show as unpaid, some show as paid in full, others are partial payments. Just depends on the status. Where are they at in process? Well, in our case, we don't have an invoice for Corey yet. So we could come up here and click on Create New Invoice and then build it out just like we did before. But we already built a quote for Corey and it already has the approved information. So if I come back over here and click on Corey's quote, there's an option up above to create an invoice from his quote. What that'll do is it'll take all the information and move it forward as a new invoice. That way I don't have to replicate all the work I already did. So we're going to click on that. Invoices do need to be tied to projects because that's where we're billing clients and tracking that money. But let's go ahead and type in Corey's name. There he is. We link that invoice to his project and save it. And now we have a new invoice that's been created for Corey with all the same information. And if I need to, I can make adjustments here before I send it out. But in this particular case, let's just leave a new note. And let's just say, hey, Corey, can't wait to get started. Your initial deposit is, and whatever that amount is, let's just call it, $945 or whatever, right? Let's just round it off to $950. And, add whatever information you want there. We're going to do the same process as before. Let's go ahead and send this invoice out to Corey so he receives the invoice and he can make payment. Now, notice here, this invoice at the top of the list shows that it's been sent and it's unpaid. We have not collected any balance from Corey quite yet. So Corey, on his end, via email, he receives a new invoice from our studio with all of the information. When he opens it up, again, there's a personalized message here, and he can open up the attached invoice down below. But notice, there's a green button on these invoices now that show Make Payment. Using Sonido, you can capture your client's payments through a number of different payment methods. So let's go ahead and click on Make Payment. So we have the invoice with all the invoice details, and down at the bottom of the invoice, there's a couple payment options that Corey can select from. This is really up to you in how you collect payments from your clients. We've got a couple different payment gateways. One of them is a more simple gateway where your clients can pay with a credit or debit card. Okay, this is our this option has been available in Sonido since day one, where it's tied in with a system called Stripe on the back end, where your clients can simply enter their credit or debit card information and make a payment to you directly. Now, alternatively, we also have some e-wallet, payment app, or bank options. So in this case, maybe our client says, okay, we've got a deposit of $950 and we want to choose one of these payment options. Well, that's going to pull up this payment portal. And with this option, you actually have a lot more flexibility. There's many different options here that you can turn on or enable for your account, such as PayPal, Venmo, Google Pay, Apple Pay, Klarna. There's other options, Sezzle, there's crypto options. There's a lot of different options that you can enable within your account, and only those options will show up for your clients to make payment. So in this particular case, Corey needs to make a deposit of $950 US. He's going to pay by PayPal. That's his preferred method. When he clicks on PayPal, that opens up a screen where he can log into his PayPal account. He can choose what method via PayPal he wants to make payment, and he can just continue. And that's going to move forward with taking that payment and processing that using Sonido on the back end, so we can record that payment directly into the project itself, or the invoice for the project. Okay, so in this particular case, Corey just took a payment, or rather made a payment of $950, and he's got a $940 balance. Now let's take a moment to look at what that looks like in a couple different places. Number one, here within our email, as a studio, we get an immediate notification that we've received a payment. Okay, that there's a payment that was recorded for this project for this amount, and there's the outstanding balance. So again, you don't have to sit back and twiddle your thumbs and wonder when you got paid. Sonido is notifying you immediately as soon as you get paid, so that you know that you've received that payment and move forward. Now, Corey, he also automatically received a payment receipt through his email. So he's been notified that it's been confirmed, and he's got that for his own records. Now here within Sonido, after we refresh the screen, we should see that the status of this invoice updates. Let's go ahead and refresh that now. Now that invoice shows as a partial payment, which is perfect. If we open up this invoice, we've got some options up above, such as view the payment history. From here, we can see any payments that have come through, and we can see the amount of those payments. So here's the date. We see that this one was paid through PayPal for $950, and there's his remaining balance, $940. Now, in some cases, you may have other payments that come through that maybe aren't as automated, which we can't track as easily. Things like maybe you receive a payment through cash or a check. Within Sonido, you also have the ability to record any payments in the system if it didn't come through an automated payment process. So when I click on Add Payment, that'll give me an option to choose what type of payment. And maybe that was cash. We got $300 in cash, and that was on the 12th of May. And I can add any notes I'd like. I can send a receipt after I save this so that the client gets a receipt, or just save it directly. And what that does is, again, it records that payment as a cash payment, $300. And now I see what my remaining balance is. Now, after we've received payment in full, this invoice status should automatically display as paid in full. Let's go ahead and open up our invoice one more time. We're going to click on Make Payment. And this time, let's say that the client comes in and pays by credit card. So they put in their credit card details, and they have a balance of $640. They make that payment. The system's going to process that payment. This is the one through Stripe as an alternative to the e-wallet options we looked at before. And now this client has paid their balance in full. If we come back here to our invoices, we can see that it's paid in full. We can see the payment history to see each one of those transactions that came through and verify that we have payment in full. All of these different payment methods are linked with your banking account, so that after those funds are pulled, it pushes those funds right into your banking account and you're moving on. So in this particular case, now we went a little bit further with Corey, but initially we captured the deposit. Next step for us is probably to book his first session. Let's go over to the calendar here within Sonido and look at our bookings. Now within Sonido, you have the ability to create as many different rooms for tracking studio scheduling as you need to. You'll notice in my account, I've got a blue room, which is Studio A. Studio B is green. Podcasting space is brown. I've got a practice room, which is yellow. And I can create as many different rooms and color code those rooms how I would like, so that at a glance, I can quickly and easily see what's going on in each one of these spaces every day, right? We've got pretty typical views as well. You've got your month view, your week view, your day view, to see the details however you'd like to see those, okay? Now, in our particular case, we want to book studio time for Corey for his project to start his first vocal session. And it sounds like he wants to book that for maybe Friday this week. Looks like we have availability in the afternoon. So if we come up and click on new booking, let's go ahead and start to populate a new recording session booking for our client. Okay, we're going to link this booking to his record. In this case, it's probably a project record, which is most common. And let's go ahead and find Corey's project here in the list of available projects. There he is. We're going to link that together. Now, what you're going to notice as we're filling this out is that when you're creating these bookings, it's very similar to like a Google Calendar or any other calendar out there. The biggest difference is that Sonido allows you to collect even more information that you don't typically get in Google Calendars. Things like connecting your booking with projects or tracking what types of events and other details like that. So watch out for that. You'll see how this takes you several steps further so that you're collecting more information that you can use for reporting purposes later. All right, so we scheduled this booking on the 12th at 5 p.m., ending at 9 p.m. And down below, we've got Corey listed as a guest. Now, if Corey has additional band members or individuals that we want to add as guests, we can easily add them using Sonido. We can pull them from our existing contacts in our CRM, or you can simply type out any email addresses that you want to include as a guest for this booking. So in our case, let's go ahead and add one more because I want to show you what this looks like for those guests when they receive a communication confirming their booking. Now, before we get there, let's talk about assigned users. These are your internal team members, yourself or others, where you can make assignments. Who is going to be running this booking? Well, that's Brady. And what is their booking role? Well, he's the engineer. You can customize this list of roles to meet whatever criteria you need for booking purposes. And we can add as many as we need. Maybe we've got Peyton. Peyton's going to be our assistant on this particular session. So we add him as well. We can specify what room we're booking in. Let's call that Studio C. What is the event type? In this case, we're recording, but you can create whatever event types you would like to track. Now, project songs is interesting. We'll talk about this a little bit more later, but let's go ahead and add one of his songs. In our case, Corey has several different songs that he's working on as a part of this project. And if we want to track which songs we worked on in each individual session, we can assign songs to this session. Now, I don't have any yet, so let's just create one as a general example. Let's call this, Moonshine, right? And it's in the key of D flat, and it's in 4/4 time with a tempo of 88 BPM. If I have ISRC codes, I can link those. I can add additional notes about the song. And down below, I can also assign participants, right? So in this particular case, Corey, he is the lyric songwriter, but maybe someone else was the actual music songwriter, and that was somebody named Benjamin, right? Benjamin, he is the actual music songwriter, or you can populate other participant types as well, like who is the engineer or the producer as a part of this song. So you can keep track of all of those details, the metadata of the songs themselves. We'll go ahead and save that, and notice it saves right there in our project songs, and we can add as many as we need. Now, under the description field, we're going to say that we're tracking vocals on the song Moonshine, and add whatever other details you would like. Let's go ahead and save that. Now, notice here, we have this toggle turned on to send a booking notification and reminder message. That's going to send that confirmation email to all of our guests that have been assigned. And not only that, but 24 hours prior to the booking, it's automatically going to send a reminder to those guests as well, so that they have all the information in front of them. So what does that look like? Well, let's save this booking. And we should see that pop onto our calendar. There it is, right there in Studio C. It shows all the details we just added, including our team members involved, right there on the calendar block. Now, if we go back to our email, You'll notice here that we've got right here, this new email that just came in from the studio. This is what goes out to all of those guests, showing them that their studio booking is confirmed at the studio, right? And it's got their information. It shows, your studio name and your studio logo up above. It shows the booking date and time. It shows everything about the session itself, what room that it's assigned to. It shows the studio address here as well. It'll show the description that you populated for that booking. And down below, it even has a link where you can add this to your own calendar. So your clients can save it to their calendar and they're not going to forget about any of those details, right? So they're very, very convenient to notify your clients and let them know about those bookings that are occurring. So this is your hub. This is where you're coming to manage all of your studio bookings and manage any, cancellations or rescheduled sessions, anything like that. You can link this to any third-party calendar. So for example, on your iPhone or your Android phone, if you wanted to see your studio schedule on your mobile device, you can link it to that calendar on your mobile device and you don't skip a beat. You see all of your studio bookings there as well. Now, there is one little tangent I want to make in this conversation, because up to this point, we've been talking about a little bit more of that traditional studio flow where we've got a client, we send the quote, we invoice the deposit, we manually, speak with them and book their studio time. Within Sonido, we also have a more automated approach, a more modern approach for bookings as well. Not every studio uses this, but if you want to create an online booking flow where your clients can simply go to your website and they can go to the bookings page and look at all the packages that are available and book sessions from here, they can do that as well. All right. So everything in this gray and white space is coming from Sonido embedded right onto a website. So let's take a look here. Up on top, we've got a number of different tabs. These are different services that I've set up. And you'll notice that each one of these services has its own packages that fall within it. So let's take, for instance, maybe somebody's looking at booking a recording session with an engineer. They select that tab, and now they've got a number of different packages that have been built. Here's a 1 hour, 2 hour recording session, 4 hour, full day session. Even down below, there's a recording session where they get to choose their own hours. So rather than having just fixed hours, they can select from a list of hours and say, you know what, I want a 3-hour session. And the system will calculate that. The hourly rate for the session multiplied by the duration to give them what their total cost for this session will be. So there's a lot of different configuration options that you can work on here. And Sonido will help you to build all of that out so that you can embed it right onto your website. So in our case, this individual wants to pick this package. They select that package and they are met with the booking page where they're able to select a date on the calendar. Let's pick the 17th. Next, I get to pick an engineer. Now, there's a number of logic flows built in here as well, so that you may have certain engineers that service different packages, or even rooms that are only available for certain packages, such as a podcasting room for podcasting sessions, music rooms for music sessions, and so forth. So again, you have a lot of configuration where you can really build this flow to meet your needs. In this case, let's go ahead and book Warrants. He's going to be our engineer for that session. And notice now what this is doing is it's looking at available times. What times does Warrants as an engineer have available on the 17th? And we can go in and pick, let's call it 9 o'clock p.m. And then the system's also looking at rooms. For Warrants on the 17th at 9 p.m., what rooms are available for this particular package to book from? Well, this client, they want to pick Studio A, and they've done so. Tell us about your project. Maybe in this case, we're tracking vocals on 2 songs and any other details they want to add. Now, we have a couple other fields here. Project information. On your end, when you're building out this online booking flow, you can actually specify what fields you want your clients to populate. And you can determine which of those fields are required or not. It's all about collecting information up front so you know some expectations. Things like, what is your target start date? What is your genre of music? Right? Maybe this is a hip hop group. Favorite drinks and snacks. I like water, without the typo, water and, fruit snacks, whatever. You can add their website. You can have social links, music media links. There's about 24 different fields that you can populate. This is just a small snippet to show an example, but you can grab other details as well, like, their band name or their studio experience or other things like that. Now, next is the contact information. This is where they need to populate their information here. So email, let's just say this is brucebillings@email.com. Again, they're going to put in their first and their last name and their phone number, so we know where to contact them. Down below, we saw this before on the invoice. You can decide whether you require deposits or not. And the nice thing about this within Sonido is you can automate it. You can require deposits in order for somebody to request studio bookings. So in this particular case, let's say we're going to pay, again, we saw both of these options before, by e-wallet or by credit card. Let's just pay by credit card. Now, one thing to notice here is that it's taking a $100 deposit. In your backend settings for Sonido, you can specify what amount you want to set as a deposit. Is it 100%? Is it 50%? Is it a strict monetary value? So you have some flexibility. This particular session is going to be $100 based on those settings that I've set up. And then the client will come down after they've populated all of these details, the information, the package, their booking date, time, the room, their information, contact info. They can come down and click on Pay Deposit and Request Session. Now, this is something else I want to talk about, Request Session. Within our online booking flow, you have the ability to set this up in two different ways. You can set them up as requests, which is most common with most of our clients, where it's coming through to the studio to control whether they approve the request or not. Or you can just set them up so they automatically book right on your calendar without having anyone approve those sessions. When I click Pay Deposit and Request Session, this is going to put a hold on the funds, that $100 payment, and it's going to send a notification to the studio with basically asking if we approve it or not. So if we come back here to Sonido, notice in our top right corner, we have this big green button that popped up and says, in real time, that pops right up and says, you have a new booking request. It's for this project, date, time, room, event type, what is it associated with? It's got all the information, and I can decide whether I want to reject it, reschedule it, or accept it. In this case, let's go ahead and accept this booking. Now, before I hit accept, let's take a look, because we booked that on the 17th, and it hasn't come in. Oh, you know what? Let's refresh our screen so we can see that. And let's close that for just a moment and look at the 17th. So notice right here, we've got this booking that's populated. It's semi-transparent. It's kind of an opaque color because it's pending. It has not been approved quite yet. So if we come up here to our notifications and we look at that online booking request again, here it is. This one, it's waiting for our approval. Let's go ahead and accept this request from our friend Bruce. That's going to do about 5 different things all at once at this point. Number one, it's going to process that payment that had a hold on it. So now that payment has gone through and it's recorded. So I'll show you that in just a moment. But before we get there, let's go ahead and take a look on our calendar again. We've got that booking that dropped in. That's confirmed now. Now, not only that, but if we come up to our contacts here within Sonido, and if we look up Bruce, notice right here, Bruce Billing. It created Bruce as a contact within my Sonido Contact Manager, the CRM, because he didn't exist before. Now I have all of his contact information within my system. It also created a project record. It assumes that we're going to be working on a project with Bruce, so now there's a project that's been created and we're ready to get started. And lastly, on the financials, if we come down to View Invoices, the system automatically created an invoice for the total amount of that session, and it shows that there's a partial payment. If I come to View Payment History, we can see that today there was a payment through Stripe for $100 and the remaining balance is $50, right? So that online booking system is powerful, right? Because it's built using Sonido Software as your studio management platform, it's intertwining everything into one system. Your contacts, your scheduling, your billing, the bookings for the sessions, it's got everything tied together so you don't have to use 3, 4 individual systems to do everything that we just accomplished all at once within Sonido. Very cool, right? So that's your online bookings that you can tie into as well. Let's take a step back from that tangent now. Previously, we were talking all about Corey. And Corey, he had gone through, he had paid his deposit. We booked the first session with Corey. Let's talk about Corey's project again. If we come back up to projects, in our list, there's Bruce, but we're going to talk about Corey here, who we were talking to before. Within Sonido, you have full project management built out into the system as well, where you can keep track of that project from start to finish and everything that's happening in between. So first of all, let's talk about the project stages. Similar to what we talked about with those lead stages previously, that sales pipeline, your projects also have a pipeline. Every new project starts in pre-production. If I click on that, this will allow me to change that stage. Now, Sonido has some default stages built out in this whole production pipeline, but you can go in and customize them however you would like. When you're ready, we can go ahead and just change the stage. In this case with Corey, we've booked his recording session, so let's change that to a recording stage. Now we have all of Corey's information that came over from his lead record here. And down below, we've got some other project management tools that help us to move this project forward. Notes. Again, we talked a little bit about notes previously, but we can see all the history of all the notes, and now we can start to document any notes related to this project. You know, for example, we had our first session today, and it went very well. This is what we accomplished. This is what Corey was looking for. Really cool guy. Liked his attitude. This is where we ended. Tomorrow, we're going to book the next session, and we're going to pick up from here, right? Keep track of all of those details so you and your team know exactly what's going on at any time and at any point. And again, we referenced this before, but we don't want these things to fall through the cracks. We want to feel very professional, and nothing's worse than coming back for the next session and saying, hey, Corey, I can't remember. What did we do last time in the studio? I don't remember the details. Where did we end up? What are we doing today? Instead, if you're in the habit of documenting those notes and keeping track of those details yourself, you can look up your notes, refresh your memory, and when Corey arrives in the studio, you are the professional one that's on the ball saying, Corey, we ended up here last time. I'm so excited to kick you off on the next steps now today. Here's where we're starting, right? Whether you're a one-person or a multi-person studio, it's just helpful to have that documentation for yourself. Now, the next tab over is to-dos. We talked about to-dos earlier as well. You can create as many to-dos as you need for the project. Things like if you need to rent mics, or you need to, service the console before, or whatever it may be, you can create that checklist within the project of anything relating to this project itself. Under the Bookings tab, we see a history of every calendar booking that we have set up as sessions for this project. So we see the title, when did it start and end, how many hours was that booking, and if we had multiple bookings over time, we'd see a summary of the total hours of all bookings from this location as well as a reference point. Under time tracking, some studios use time tracking, others don't. This is a little bit different concept than the calendar bookings themselves, but if you're in the habit of tracking time for projects and maybe billing for that time that you've tracked, you can use Sonido to do so. We can create a timer that's just going to run right here on the project, and it just runs until you hit the stop button, and it will record every one of those time entries. It shows who was the user that tracked time, what was the task that they were tracking, start and end times, as well as the total duration of those track time entries. In our case, I ended that pretty quickly. Let's go ahead and put something a little bit later so we can see, how many hours did we have. And you can track as much as you need. You can have multiple people tracking time at the same time within their own login and all of that. So time tracking can be used to bill clients for actual hours used, or maybe it's not about billing at all. Maybe it's just to give us an internal reference of, we estimated this project would be 12 hours. What is our actual time spent on the project overall, right? Time tracking is a brilliant, helpful feature. And then there's also the songs. If you remember, we created this together, Moonshine. You can come in and create as many different songs as you need as a part of this project. And now you have one place to go to reference all of these details very easily. The next section down is your project files. So this is your cloud storage. Think of this like your Dropbox or your Google Drive of Sonido, but it's all built into the same system. So from one place within my project for Corey Johansson, I can store any files relevant to this project from one place. I can create folders to keep everything organized. For example, maybe I have a mixes folder, and maybe in this case, the client either has sent stems or backing tracks or whatever it is that they're working on. So I can organize everything and upload the files right here within the system. So I can either drag and drop or browse for those files. Let's go ahead and upload a couple mixes here. As we're working through this project with our friend Corey, he's got a couple mixes ready. Let's go ahead and just drop those in here. 1, 2, 3. We're going to open those files. Now, these are MP3s just for the demo purposes. Most of our clients are using high resolution waves, FLAC files, MP3s. Most audio files would be supported here. And it's not just audio files either. Here in project files, you can store session files, documents, photos, whatever you would like. Here within on a mobile device, you can actually pull up the project files, click browse, and take photos of the session right from your mobile device, which will automatically save right here into your project files. So if you like to document photos for sessions, you can do that very, very easily. All right. So we keep these files stored right here against the project for easy reference anytime. Now, these folders I've created are private to myself within my Sonido account. Sonido also has an option for you to create a client uploads folder. So if I click on that, that's going to create a folder here. There it is, for client uploads. This is essentially a shared folder that I can send out to the client and have them upload any necessary files for this project. For example, with Corey, he's already got the instrumentation tracks, right? Those backing tracks, and he needs to send them to us. Maybe I just send him this client uploads folder. And so I'm going to send it to Corey, and let's go ahead and add it ourselves so we can see what this looks like as well. And send that invitation. Well, what Corey receives is he gets an email from our team, from our studio. And it says you were invited to upload files to your studio project. When he opens up that link, this is a file upload portal that's linked to that shared folder where anything he adds will be available to the studio and vice versa. If the studio adds anything to this folder, Corey will have access to. So let's say Corey comes in here and he says, hey, here's one of my, I don't know, I'm just grabbing one at random. Here's one of my instrumental tracks, right? As soon as he uploads that file here into this shared folder, as the studio, you immediately have access. There it is. You can download those files. You can run with them and do whatever you need at that point. So it's a true shared folder between you and your clients. So that's a bit about like the project files and storing those files. As we progress through this project with Corey, we are working through, the editing, the mixing, all of these different stages up to the point where maybe we've got the mixes ready and we want to share those with the client to collect their feedback, right? And, there's a number of different systems out there today that allow you to share files for review with your clients, gets people out of the email back and forth. The biggest benefit that Sonido offers you is that we bundle in all of these features, all of these benefits into one single platform, so you don't have to try and manage a dozen different independent systems. Within Sonido, we have an audio file review portal that's very intuitive for your clients to use. All you need to do is specify what audio files you want to add to the review portal, right? So we can control what audio files do we want our friend Corey to review once we've got those mixes or masters ready. And then we can control who are our reviewers, right? We can say we only want Corey to review, or we can add other band members if he has multiple. So let's go ahead and add another member to review that and send out that invitation. So that's going to kick off a notification to Corey and any other people that we invited. And you can see here that Corey gets an email that says you have new audio files to review from the studio. When he opens up this link, this opens the file review portal where Corey Johansson or any other member who's reviewing these files, they enter their name, and now they have access to start reviewing the audio files directly. Notice the 3 audio files that as a studio we gave to Corey show up on the left side of the screen. So he has easy access to bounce back and forth between these different tracks, listen, and provide feedback. Now the purpose of the audio file review portal is to allow your clients to stream the audio, share feedback, all in one place. So they don't have to go and hunt for all these different emails and text messages and all the back and forth sharing feedback. This is a more transparent process for both you and your clients to capture feedback on any of these mixes or audio files that you've shared with your clients. So all Corey has to do is hit the play button, and that starts playing back the audio. And when Corey hears a space where he wants to add a comment, he can simply select and add his comments. Maybe he says, I love this intro, but the synth pad is a little too loud. Can we correct this? Right? And he just submits that comment. That keeps the color-coded section, that region that was selected, in the waveform. And now we see the this comment. It shows who added the comment, when did they add it, what was the comment. We can see the actual region in the waveform where that comment was added, and Corey just hits play and continues until he hears another area where he wants to add another comment. And he says something like, the vocals are too dry in the chorus. Can we add more reverb? And maybe he has another one, right? Over here, later in the song, he says, I love this build up. It's not even a revision request. It's just a comment itself. And you can color code any of these comments as well, however you would like. I mean, there's some flexibility here. All right, so Corey's gone through each individual track and he's added all the comments that he wants to add. He can fast forward here and see the other parts of the track as well. What about you? What about the studio side? Well, as the studio, you get immediate notifications as soon as Corey adds comments. If we come back here into Sonido and look at your notifications in the top screen, you'll see here that a minute ago, Corey added this comment. A few seconds ago, he added 2 other comments. In real time, you are receiving notifications showing that Corey is taking action in that review portal so that you can take the next steps on your part as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Down here in the file review section, we can open up the review portal within our Sonido account. We don't have to leave. We can do it all from right here. And we can select these regions and see the information, right? So he says, I love this intro, but the synth pad is a little too loud. Can we correct this? I can reply to Corey's comments right now. Say, hey, Corey, we'll take care of this. Thanks, right? I talked about transparency, right? Everyone sees the comments, everyone sees the replies, they see everything in one place. And this gets you away from having to go and search for all the different emails and text messages and try to compile all the requests into one and wonder if you had them all, if you've compiled everything correctly. Within Sonido, everything's very visual and easy to manage, and you can go through and correct each one of these individual requests and move on. And not only that, but we have version control built in as well. This was version 1. This was mix 1 that we sent out to Corey. Well, after I take all of his feedback and I make corrections in my DAW, I bounce or export version 2 out, and I can upload it right here against this initial track. So that uploads as a new layer on top of this track. And not only that, but your client is immediately notified. So they can see as soon as you upload a new version, they don't have to wait for you to say anything. They get a notification, they jump right back in, and notice now they are listening to version 2, which you just uploaded with all their corrections in place. They can go through and they can verify that their requests were addressed. They can add additional comments as needed and continue down that path. And so it makes it very, very easy for you and your clients to manage that whole audio review process more effectively. And not only that, but we have a new approve button coming in that will allow your clients, once they say, oh man, version 2, it's sweet, I love it, they can just click approve, and that version is now approved, and you get notified about that as well. So you know which versions are approved, which ones have not been approved yet. Makes the whole process so much easier. Now let's jump back into the project. We've talked about this whole process flow. Maybe we had moved this over to revisions after we did the file review. At the end of the day, when we're all complete with the project or at any point in between, we may have need to deliver the files to our client. Sonido has that functionality built in as well. So much like a file delivery tool, kind of like a WeTransfer, if you will, but it's all designed around Sonido. So when I'm ready, I can come up and click on Deliver Files. I can select my recipient, choose what files I want to deliver. I can even select a whole folder full of files, set an expiration date. If the client requires higher security, I can send them a one-time use passcode as well and deliver the files right to the client, where they get a notification by email with a link where they can download all of their files locally. And we're done, right? We're wrapped up with the project. We've delivered the files to Corey. He's happy. We're happy. Let's go ahead and just close this file. We're going to mark this as delivered and deliver those files. Sonido will celebrate here with you for just a moment, and that pulls that project out of your active projects list so that now you're only looking at the projects that are currently active that you're still working through. And that's project management within Sonido. We provide all of that value there. Now, at this point, You're probably collecting final payment from Corey. We already collected that, but if you needed to send out that invoice to Corey again, you can simply send it using Sonido and he can make the final payment at the end of the project. So you collect everything right there. So that's a big part of what we do. Now let's talk about a couple additional areas here that we haven't really got into. The to-dos view here in the main menu. If you remember, we talked a little bit about to-dos in leads and in the project. There's also, you can create to-dos for different contact records and so forth. This is your global to-dos page where you can see every to-do that's been assigned to you in the system. So you don't have to go and search and hunt through all of these different records trying to find where all of those to-dos were added. Right here, you can see every to-do and see, basically the due date, the title, who it's assigned to. You can come in here and, for example, follow up with Corey. Once we've done that, we can mark as complete. And it pulls it from our list. Mark as complete. Pull it from our list. Makes it really easy for you to see everything that's been assigned to you. Or if you're an administrative member over other team members, you can reference their to-dos and manage those with them as well. Sonido also includes equipment tracking, or rather equipment management, where you can build out all of your equipment within Sonido Software and specify details like photos, the item name, categories, subcategories, serial numbers, and more. You can track the status of equipment, what equipment is available, which equipment is in maintenance, and so forth. Makes it really easy for you to see all of that information in one place. The brand, the model, the serial number, the market value, the purchase price, purchase date. You can see descriptions and other details. What this allows you to do is document all of your studio equipment into one system along with serial numbers so that, heaven forbid, you have a disaster situation in your studio. You have a flood, you have a fire, and you lose that equipment. Or maybe you have a theft. This makes it so easy for you to have everything referenced in one place so that instead of scrambling, trying to figure out what equipment was lost, what were serial numbers, oh shoot, I don't have any of those serial numbers documented. Well, now you have them within Sonido and you can easily basically pull the information out to share as a police report or as an insurance report. Having all of your equipment documented in one place is a tremendous insurance policy in and of itself to have it all within one single system with Sonido. And we have some equipment tracking features that are coming out soon as well, which will allow you to use QR codes that adhere right onto your equipment and scan, using your mobile device, scan equipment in and out of sessions to record the history and usage of every piece of equipment. If you ever have a microphone or something come up missing, you can look at the history of that equipment and you can see who was the last person to touch it, what session was it on, what was the date, and now you know who to talk to about that. And we'll have some other reports and information there as well. You'll also be able to use this equipment as billable inventory items on invoicing, if that's something that you're planning to do with your own studio. So a lot more coming with equipment tracking within Sonido very soon as well. And lastly, we have reports. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these right now, but I harp on this all the time. Sonido is a comprehensive studio management system. If you use a dozen different independent applications to manage different parts of your studio, you have to go to a dozen different systems to try and pull reports about your business flows. Within Sonido, because we do all of it in one platform, you have all of your reports in one system. I can see everything from my lead reports, like my active lead pipelines, to see all of my leads that I'm currently working with. I can look at all of my referral sources. Let's look at, all my referrals from last month and see where did they come from? Where am I getting business from Instagram, Facebook, from my website? You have revenue reports where you can break it down by project or month over month to see what are my revenue trends over time. How much revenue have I brought in over a period of time? I can see invoice reports or even session reports for bookings and all of the calendar bookings month over month. What do those patterns look like? I can look at past due invoices. I can look at time tracking or even room utilization. There are so many different options that I can draw from to produce the reports and data that help me to make better business decisions in running my audio production studio. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking about studio management systems and showing you how Sonido Software can help you to be more organized and more efficient in managing your own production studio. We'd love to get to know you and your studio better. We'd love to learn about maybe the challenges that you're facing and show you how you can overcome some of these challenges to build your business to be more profitable in the audio space. Feel free to reach out to our team. We'd love to chat with you and show you a little bit more about how Sonido Software is the studio management platform of choice in the audio production industry.